All right, I don't know if anyone's here. I think there's one person here, but I am going to share my screen in the meanwhile. Whoever's here, if you can hear me, just say hi or something. Okay. I still have to get the hang of this, so I should have done this before, but sorry, guys. I'm going to give it a minute just while I close this. Oh, shoot. Okay. Hi, is anyone here? I had clients earlier, so I had to. Hi, Teresa. I was closing my. All right. Sorry, Teresa. Just give me 1 second. Okay. It's 7 p.m. I'm wondering if you can see me. I'm just trying to set up my screen so that I should probably waited to go live and set this up, but I hope you don't mind bearing with me. Okay. And I don't know how much you can see me, but hopefully you can at least see my screen. Well, I'm just wondering if I should just start with you, Teresa, or give it a minute. And this is very spontaneous. I had totally not planned on doing this. So, are you able to see my screen, Teresa? Hi. Are you able to see my screen if you're here? Anyone? Okay. I'm not sure. All right. Maybe I should just begin for whoever's here, and then whoever's not here will catch up and can rewatch the replay later. And my nails are awful, but this is spontaneous. But all right, officially, let's begin. Teresa, thank you for being here and welcome to Cosmic Diaries. This is Priya Kali, your astrologer. And this is a very spontaneous stream of consciousness on the Taurus new moon that just took place hours ago, yesterday at 3:31 p.m. on the 27th of April. And this is the chart for the Taurus new moon. And we're going to dive into this. And this is a very significant new moon that just took place because the combination of the entire transit of Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus entered Taurus in 2018. So we're going to dig into all of this. And Uranus is going to enter Gemini on the 7th of, oh my gosh, June. I'm going to confirm that. Or is it, I have so many dates in my brain. On the 7th of June or the 7th of July, 1 second. 7th of July, I'm sorry. 7th of July, Uranus enters Taurus. And this Taurus season is the final Taurus season with Uranus still in the sign. So it's the culmination of all the lessons we've been learning since 2018. Now, Taurus energy, first of all, we're at the new moon. So this is a brand new beginning. And the days that follow, and today and the next couple of days especially, are extremely fertile because we're planting seeds now. The new moon is always the beginning of a cycle, and the new moon will come by the time we get to the full moon. The moon is that has then reached 180 degrees from where it was at the new moon. And so we things that were seeded at the new moon will come to light. So pay attention to, whatever, wherever you're feeding your attention and energy, because what you feed will grow. Taurus, especially, is an earth sign. It's a fixed earth sign, and it deals with all physical energy, material energy, um, our money, our possessions, our values, the things and people we value, as well as, which means our closest bonds and relationships, as well as, how we value ourselves, our intangible values. That is very much the essence of Taurus. And being that it's a fixed earth sign and it's a sign that rules nature, really, when it comes to astrology, and life or anything, it's like the more we can observe life, really, we can really start to witness this astrology play out in our life. And then we can use it more creatively and consciously. And the sun, wherever the sun is transiting, that is, the sun in astrology is our primary consciousness. So it's like this, there's a spotlight in the sky, in this sector of the sky, which in astrology relates with an area of your chart wherever you have Taurus in your chart. And I'm just kind of diving in here, but you can look up your chart for free at astro.com. You can, if you have your birth details, for anyone who doesn't know already. And of course, I am available for astrology consultations, and I'll leave details for that below. But it would help now for you to, even if you don't understand astrology, you don't need to be an astrologer. But if you can just familiarize yourself with what an astrology chart looks like, and what, the basic houses are, and where the signs fall in your chart, it'll be a very useful, helpful tool to help you navigate life and recenter yourself. So, with Taurus energy, especially, this is a sign of nature and it speaks of growth. And if you think of nature and if you think of earth, it's a very slow, I mean, the earth is fixed and solid, nature grows at a very slow process, and nature has its own timeline. And we would do well not to disrupt that timeline. Like a baby needs 9 months to grow, and we don't want a premature baby. Not okay. Let me. I think you understand what I mean. For the health of the baby, ideally, the baby needs 9 months to grow. So it's understanding these natural processes and understanding that these processes take time. But with Uranus, since 2018, Uranus is the awakener. Uranus energy is very electric and sudden. It brings sudden changes. It's a very revolutionary planet. And sorry, I'm trying to go back. Once I open up that stream of consciousness, it just keeps going. So I have to, like, okay, let's go back here. This is our Taurus new moon chart. So I was talking about Uranus. Uranus is the awakener. And Uranus's energy is like an electric current. It's a lightning bolt. It's like the flash of lightning that illuminates a dark landscape. And, in that one instant, we can see the light and we see the lay of the land. That's Uranus. Now, so when you're talking about sudden changes, an energy like Uranus in Taurus, this is groundbreaking energy. I mean, I can think of many metaphors to use, but it's like it's been shaking and pushing our boundaries and the ground that we've been standing on wherever we have Taurus in our chart. And steadily since 2018, our boundaries have been pushed, and we've been waking up to a greater reality, to a deeper reality. If Taurus speaks of material and physical energy and reality, so to speak, Uranus has been pushing our boundaries to ask us to question what we think are the limits of our reality. And it's been asking us to, you know, it's opening us up to new pastures and opening new doors and drawing us out of our comfort zone. Taurus is a very sensual sign. It deals with all our senses: sight, taste, touch, smell. And we also have a sixth sense, which is not physical. It's not something that we can see or quantify, but it exists. Our intuition exists. Oh my God, I should actually somehow find a way to silence these things or they're going to annoy me. Sorry, guys. And then at any point, please, if you're not following what I'm saying, you guys have questions, just feel free to jump in because literally, this was so unplanned. I hadn't planned to do this, and it's the Taurus new moon. I am a Taurus. I also have my moon in Taurus. So this is just a burst of energy that's coming out. So I just figured I'd share. Uh, but since Uranus has been in Taurus, now it's been, unearthing stuff in this area of our life and dislodging things, shaking things up since 2018. And it's like shaking the tree. So there may be fruits falling, but as well as, God alone knows what else is anything that's not on solid foundations has been shaken off and rattled. And now we are entering a brand new cycle, which is, look, over the past even 6 7 months, so much has shifted within all of us and in the world. Even we're not, we're on the brink and the edge and the threshold of a whole new era right now. Late last year, Pluto entered Aquarius right here. Uranus is now at the end of Taurus, about to enter Gemini. Neptune has already just entered Aries after being in Pisces for since 2012, 11. So, I mean, outer planets will shift signs, at a larger intervals, obviously, because they have larger orbits. But and it happens every few years. But to have four major outer planets: Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, and I mean, even Jupiter is going to enter Cancer. So, really, all the outer planets are shifting. This is like a huge collective shift because the personal inner planets will speak to more of our personal, interpersonal, daily developments, whereas the outer planets will speak to the larger cycles and the larger backdrop of our life with bigger narratives as well as the collective narratives of global narratives. So it's like the world is changing, we are changing, and we're on the threshold of something, of a whole new world that, none of us we're creating as we live it. I mean, we are the edge of that living consciousness. So let me even, before I even get into this chart, I really want to talk about Taurus and even astrology and why it works. If we think of physical energy and Taurus, what are we? This Taurus rules the human body. The human body is the vessel for spirit, for soul, for consciousness. Otherwise, there would be no dead people. I mean, otherwise, why is it that when a body dies, I mean, when someone dies, the body still remains, right? But there's something, that life force from within, that light consciousness, that's what's no longer there, right? And when we say no longer there, the opposite axis of Taurus is Scorpio. So in astrology, as in life, everything is, it's an axis. There's two extremes of the axis of the same energy. So if Taurus speaks of life, Scorpio speaks of death. If, this axis reminds us that change is the only constant. Only, and in both cases, with Scorpio, change happens deep under the surface. It's a water sign, fixed water sign. It happens in the shadows. Even in Taurus, you think it's a fixed earth sign, but if you think of nature, it's always in a process of growth. It's always growing. But it's just a slow, gradual process that's invisible to the naked eye unless we really pay attention. And then over periods of time, we can suddenly see, oh, there's been growth, right? Even if we look at plants. So it's understanding these natural processes and to recognize that we ourselves are seeds of consciousness planted on this material plane. And life is eternal. Birth and death are like bookends of life. Life, or that consciousness, is eternal. And ultimately we're here for, whatever else we're experiencing in our lifetime. We're here for one purpose, and that is, self-realization. And it's a soul purification, it's purification of consciousness. So we can keep recycling through lifetimes until, and can will, I mean, the ultimate destiny of every living creature, being, sentient being, is that ultimate blossoming into self realization and of understanding who you truly are, your true self. And that's also, I mean, so astrology, coming back to, understanding that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, but this is more than just a concept. Uranus has now been pushing our boundaries and awakening us to this reality, to understand that there's more to our senses and to even our energy than just the five senses that we know, the physical senses. And it's been pushing our limits to develop our sixth sense, our intuition. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius, and Aquarius ultimately is very futuristic energy. Again, it's that very lightning, crackling, sparkling star. It's also a fixed sign. It's very futuristic energy and revolutionary energy. So, and it's the energy that connects, right? It's the energy of the collective consciousness. So think Uranus and Taurus, it's ultimately awakening us to how connected we are to everything in this material world. So, I mean, COVID even taught us that, right? We could be the whole, everyone alive, we were all experiencing the same thing. And that was fixed air, Saturn and Aquarius. Anyway, I don't want to digress. But Uranus has been pushing our boundaries to recognize that there's a lot more to reality than what we think. And over the past few years, even in terms of, understanding manifestation, there's so much more information out there. It's become so much more mainstream of an understanding. I'm sorry, my nails are gross, and I can't, I should not even say that, but it's just like my nail polish is chipping, and I haven't had the time. Sorry. Uh, I'm just trying. Are you guys following? Am I making sense? Just checking in. Feel free to say hi and ask me questions if you have them. Drop them, and I'll get to it. So Uranus and Taurus is been awakening us to a greater reality, but Uranus is also, it's the planet that's associated with astrology. And there's a whole branch of astrology which is called Uranian astrology. I don't practice it, but Uranus is also a planet that's also very connected to astrology. And if you think, and it's known to be unpredictable and unexpected. So with Uranus, you can expect the unexpected. If you can think it, it's not that. So if you think of our material physical world, what's predictable? How much do you think we can predict anything in nature? We really can't. There's the only, I mean, and please, if anyone else has thought of something else, please feel free to jump in and email me. I would love to know. But I've thought about this a lot. And the only thing that we can really predict in this physical world, universe, that our known universe, really are the planets and the orbits of the planets. Everything else is unpredictable. We only think we know when we're gonna wake up tomorrow morning, or if we're gonna wake up tomorrow morning. Everything else, we just it's we think we know what's happening, but we don't. Life can change like that in an instant. The only thing that we actually can predict are the cycles of the planets. And so when we study astrology, we're essentially studying cycles. And no two moments are alike because all the planets are always moving. So it's, our best educated understanding of the symbolism, the cycles, the patterns of the past and the present, and then being open to intuition. There's so much to it. So, all of this to say, life is unpredictable. And Uranus ultimately teaches us acceptance. And hopefully, over the past, since 2018, we've been learning to accept life on life's terms. There have been sudden growth spurts. We're being drawn to the edge of our comfort zone. And this Taurus season is definitely going to heighten and bring that process to culmination. Especially pay attention to what comes up around the 17th of May, because that's when the sun will conjunct Taurus. So that's going to be that final push through. That's just that wake up call. If you haven't already got the message of whatever it's trying to teach you in your personal life, you know. So as you move through this month, we're recognize that we're in very new territory, and it'll be, it's almost like it, but our brains are being rewired into really understanding it. If we look at this new moon chart, any chart basically is the seed of a moment, right? That's why the natal chart is the seed of your life. And that's what I mean by we're seeds of consciousness, and this time lives on in eternity through us. So especially right now, at this Taurus new moon, Venus, the ruler of Taurus, is just past a conjunction to Saturn and the North Node. So, and Venus is exalted in Pisces. Also, the moon is exalted in Taurus. So, this energy is extremely abundant, rich, fertile, creative, loving. There's infinite, unconditional love and present for us. And it's present not just in like, oh yeah, God loves me, but where is God? Not like that. It's in our very real connections that we have with the people in our life right now. And we're all learning these lessons of unconditional love. And love ultimately is not something we need to receive, it's something we give. If you think of nature, and this is where astrology comes in, where we keep going back to the sun sign or this new moon to understand. If we can learn from nature, nature only gives. Nature doesn't really ask. It's only if we don't pay attention to nature, then it will die a natural death, and then we're the ones who suffer. So wherever you have Taurus in your chart, and this is what I mean by feeding energy consciously, look at where you're feeding your energy and what you're nurturing. If you're nurturing grievances and you're nurturing the past resentment, or you're nurturing stuff that's already dead and gone, it's a waste of your energy. Instead, it's about us redirecting that consciousness to nurture what's budding and blossoming and growing now in your life, and to look forward, because we're moving to this Uranus, which is the awakener and blasting us into the future. Also, Venus is past Saturn, which means that we're in a new chapter now. We're leaving a difficult chapter behind. We've all learned some very difficult lessons. And if Uranus is the rule breaker, Saturn is the disciplinarian, and the Saturn represents rules and boundaries and limits. So this energy very much is so creative. It's almost like, you've got to know the rules to break the rules. But if you've really learned, if you've gained mastery over something, like Saturn ultimately is about mastery. So if you've gained mastery over something, then you can just get out there and be a rock star, right? It's Then you just go and you play, and you play spontaneously. So in some area of our life, wherever this is playing out for you, you've gained mastery over something, and now life is out calling you to come out and play and be out there in the sandbox. And I can tell you that personally from my own experience, where it's like, okay, I've been trying to do these YouTube videos and record them and edit them and post them, and they just never see the light of day. It just sits there on my computer. I can't tell you the number of hours I've spent, with videos that I have just sitting there unedited. And so now I'm just like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to go out there and do this live, and hopefully people will come, and hopefully people will listen. And if nobody listens, then they'll listen when they can. So that's one way that it's playing out for me. On another aspect of what's happening here is it's almost like things have been thrown, if any area of our life has been, thrown into chaos with Uranus, because Uranus will push, a lot of stuck energy has been recently dislodged in our life. We just had a Mars Pluto opposition, and this new moon is in a T square to Mars and Pluto. And whenever there's a T square in the sky, it brings a pivotal moment, and there's extreme pressure on this apex of this alignment. And then in that case, what we have to look at is the sign opposite. Like here we've got a T square on a grand on the fixed signs, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius. So then we would look to Scorpio to be able to balance this energy. And what this is saying is that there's been a lot of change. And it's important that we allow time and, move slowly as we transition. That said, this is the final push. So it's time to clean up our acts, and really, with Taurus energy, it's a great time to declutter your space physically and, of course, mentally, emotionally as well. Be sure that you're leaving that past behind and you're consciously creating new patterns. And some of this might feel uncomfortable because, you know, it's if we're used to doing things a certain way, naturally Taurus likes its comfort. Like Taurus is a creature of comfort, and it has its set patterns. But now so much has been dislodged and shaken up that we're having to build on solid foundations. So there's an element of having to sweep through the debris as well of things that have, no longer working. Also, with the moon approaching Uranus later in the month, I mean, actually, tonight the moon will conjunct Uranus. So this is the current chart. The moon is actually almost conjunct Uranus right now. In a couple of hours, it'll be exact. So it's almost like as this cycle begins, sometimes there has to be chaos before things can fall back into order. So there may be an element of that which is happening, where, with Venus past Saturn, we're leaving an old chapter behind and we're entering this new chapter, but there's also still the, stuff that's fallen away that's no longer working that needs to be swept away. So think of that process that's undergoing, that's underway somewhere in your life right now, and move through it consciously, where you're clearing away the past as you clear space for the future. And at this point, anyway, you can probably see where something is leading. You know, still, Uranus asks for, letting go of all expectations and letting go of detachment, or having detachment rather. And that's really the spiritual lesson of Uranus, is detachment and acceptance. So we're shaping, we're materializing our dreams now. This Venus in Pisces is a sign of dreams, of a vision, cosmic consciousness. And it's, Venus is creative energy and it's the ruler of Taurus. So this is extremely, I can't overstate how creative, fertile, innovative, and, just lush and delicious and sensual and heart centered this energy is. So just pay attention to where you're pouring your energy now. Because it's like, casting pearl before swine. We've got to, we can't keep throwing good energy after bad and then expecting, that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So learn your lessons now. And then you can, be creative with the potential that's present. And there really is infinite potential. So then it comes down to us really, we've had to realign with our a soul mission and a soul truth, and really see beyond the physical aspects of something, the physical glamour of something, the physical, and look at the reality of situations, the good, bad, and the ugly. nothing is perfect, no one is perfect, so with Venus conjunct Saturn, hopefully we've had that reality check of understanding what is important and what is our bottom line and what matters to us and why. Because this is also, conjunct, this triple conjunction with the North Node. It's like what we're creating now and what we're doing now will have ripple effects that will go on into eternity, long after we're dead and gone. So, what do you want to leave behind? The work that you're doing, the actions that you're, you know, performing, the people that you meet, even on a casual day to day basis, we don't know when one act of kindness or you know, one harsh word can be life changing for someone, right? So it's having that level of even self awareness of how we impact others, and only hurt people. So it's having compassion for others, but also for ourselves. So, there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. Pisces is a very healing sign. So there's deep healing that's in process, that's underway. And it's important that we allow space for that healing, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, and certainly physically. So what's that book? I haven't read it, but I get it, which is The Body Stores Trauma, right? And so if there have been traumatic and difficult experiences, there is the need to allow space for that healing to happen. So even as we enter new situations, take your time, move slowly, trust. With Taurus especially, it's like moving at your own pace, moving at a natural pace, and trusting that process, your process, whatever that is, and then moving in self acceptance that, okay, and not comparing, because that's very Uranian, where it's so unique. Like what you're doing and the path that you're carving right now and that you're walking right now is very unique to you. And maybe others will understand, maybe others won't. But now the masks are dropping. This new moon was square, as I said, it was T square this Mars and Pluto. It's time to be real. Taurus is real energy, there's no, it's raw and real. And it's a Venus rule sign. So it's also gentle and heart centered. But there's no bullshitting, right, with Taurus. And it's time to move past that and being in no denial with ourselves about what does and does not work for us and what's on shaky ground. Because, now nothing that's on shaky foundations is going to withstand. So, whether it's the work that we're doing, something that we're building, or even in our relationships, if a relationship has to sustain, then it will have to be real. It's time to get real. And which means starting with being real with ourselves about what, or where our boundaries lie, and moving forward how we want to proceed. And so, circling back, what we're doing now will have ripple effects. And but this is very, magical, musical, creative, divine energy. So on the one hand, yes, I'm saying pay attention to where you feed your energy, but that's really what, because that's really all we can do in terms of understanding that. Another thing that Uranus is hopefully teaching us, it certainly taught me that those lessons. And I also have Uranus on my ascendant opposite my moon, so I'm very familiar with Uranus's energy. But at the same time, with Uranus conjunct my sun, this has been a whole other level of understanding what this energy is like. And so, coming back to Taurus, if Taurus rules the physical body, and Taurus being the opposite axis from Scorpio, think of, control is an illusion. If Pisces speaks of illusions, and Uranus is breaking through our illusions of what we think reality is, or awakening us to a greater reality, think that you know, control is an illusion. Taurus rules the human body. Scorpio speaks of control and matters of control and power and surrender, ultimately asking us to surrender and to let go. And there can be alchemy and transformation. So where we're transforming the darkness into light, really. So think, we don't even control our heartbeats, you know. We don't control our inner bodily functions. Most of them are involuntary. Our digestive system, you know, even the brain, we're not consciously, unless we're meditating, and that's why meditation is important. But most of our bodily functions are all involuntary. We just think, you know, we can't even control our own, most of our, you know, inner functions or our heartbeat. We just think we have control over the rest of the world, and that's an illusion. And so Neptune, the ruler of these, the modern ruler of these planets in Pisces, which was recently and also in Pisces and has just now entered Aries, you know, Neptune's here. And we're talking about this new moon chart, but this is really seeding the energy for the next 2 weeks and the next 6 months, this till the Taurus full moon, which is on the 7th of November. And very interestingly, actually, hours after that full moon, Uranus leaves Gemini and comes back into Taurus. So that's another really important thing to note, which is, you know, this intentions or seeds you're planting now. Yes, 2 weeks from now, by the 12th of May, we'll see some situations come to light and through this Taurus season. But then the next progression of this energy is going to be, you know, when the full moon aligns in Taurus on the 7th of November and Uranus re enters Taurus for a few months for the last wrap up. So it's, in essence, it's like, okay, this new moon, we're seeding, you know, it's a new beginning. It's a whole new cycle wherever you have Taurus in your chart. And then once Uranus, I mean, the full moon will happen. And once Uranus leaves Taurus to enter Gemini, for those few months, we're getting a glimpse into a whole new world. And then once we've seen what is possible, then by the time of the full moon, Uranus re enters Taurus. And so then we have a chance to make adjustments. And if something's not working, then we let it go, you know. Anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead into the future, but I do want to, you know, the reason I'm bringing this to attention is to let you, to help you see that these things have a timeline, you know. So just be patient. You won't know now what you will know then. It's just a matter of us moving through that process in as much awareness as possible. So we don't really have control over what happens around us or even in life, but we have control over how we respond to situations. Another thing to think about is Taurus rules the body, but it also rules the throat, the neck, the voice. And Taurus, in terms of the zodiac wheel, and you know, if Aries is a newborn, Taurus is the toddler. Think the sign after Taurus is Gemini. That's where Uranus is going to enter Gemini. And I name this forecast the Garden of Eden, and that's the image kind of that came to me. And I'm saying this, I'm not a Catholic. I did go to convent school, so I'm not. I couldn't exactly tell you all the biblical. You know, I get the, I know the gist of the story, right, or the understanding of the Garden of Eden. But if you think of it even symbolically in terms of, you know, my point is, I'm not speaking about directly the story, although there might be a lot to learn from the story itself, which I am unaware of, other than on a very basic level, which of course I am aware of, or I wouldn't bring it up. But if Gemini, the next sign, is the sign that speaks of communication, Taurus is the sign of that indivisible reality. So before we became aware of the other, before there was a separation between the self and the other, where everything is natural, where you can have anything from this garden of Eden that is life, except that poison apple tree. But what is that poison apple in that tree? And that's the illusion of separation, of thinking that we're really separate from the divine. And so then we've been cast out in some way. Maybe this is a thought that still needs to percolate, so I'm going to write it up in a report, so I'll shut up about it. But I'm very much getting that sense of, it's important that we really soak in understand these lessons and get rooted in this Taurus season and the lessons that we're learning over the next few days, and the rest of Taurus season. Because without that, once Uranus enters Gemini, we'll be, you know, going from extremes. If we are not rooted in reality, then that tree will not have a firm foundation, and it'll be easier for things to fall apart. So when it comes to this materializing a vision or a dream, it's important that we're not just building castles in the air, right? There needs to be a foundation in some kind of reality, which is what we're doing now, where a vision is slowly coming to life. And then, in all, each and every one of us right now is living the dream. It's just the level of our awareness of it. And really, right now, the energy is such where we're probably manifesting things that are wildly unexpected, but that we've always dreamed of our whole life in some respect. And now the dream is becoming real. And are you excited about this, or is this more of a nightmare? You know, the universe only wants to teach us lessons of love. So it's just a matter of us now looking at our life without, this duality. Jupiter in Gemini, which rules this Venus in Pisces at the moment. And then Neptune is the other ruler of Pisces. So there's an element of having to, move beyond the duality of things and to return to the essence and the oneness of life. In the next few days, this Venus is going to enter Aries and then conjunct Neptune. And so there's really that sense of, at best, there can be that sense of having deep clarity, or at least one moment of seeing the infinite possibilities and understanding how connected we are with the whole universe. Taurus energy, it's a Venus rule sign, so this energy is receptive, and you can magnetize and draw whatever you need to you now. And really, Taurus is the sign of the earth. So the earth needs nothing. Nature needs nothing. And nature is not just the earth, it's all the elements, of course. But, and that's why that's one of the reasons the moon is exalted in Taurus, because it's very fertile energy, and it is resourceful energy, and it is sustaining. That's why Taurians generally are fairly content people. If the energy is balanced, this energy is, teaches us about contentment. Like, we have what we need. We're always, the universe provides. It's when we want to possess things and when we're greedy for things, that's when, we feel that sense of lack. And yes, we can get into a lot of conversations about why people are rich and why people are poor. But, and we could go on about that for hours, but this is that spiritual illusion, right? The North Node speaks of karma. We don't understand karma. We think we do, but we don't understand karma. We don't know how many lifetimes we've lived to, and how, what we've done in other lifetimes to be here today in this lifetime. I mean, And first of all, to even have this human birth in this human body is such an it's a miracle. It's a miracle that you and I and we are alive as we are today. If you think of all the odds in the universe and your parents and grandparents and the lineages that go back, right? Because Scorpio, if you think of Taurus Scorpio axis, it also speaks of those bloodlines and that flesh and blood and genes and genetic material that's recycled. That's why Taurus, life is eternal, but birth and death are, it's like Taurus is flesh, but Scorpio speaks of, the body dies, but not the soul. And so when we die and we come back, it's almost like changing clothes. The soul changes clothes, like the body gets old and it has to come back. But hopefully, at best, we don't have to come back. And that's the goal anyway. So I'm saying this because the North Node conjunct Saturn, conjunct Venus, you know, right? And now I don't even have the words to express some of the things that are coming to me right now. So you have to bear with me, and I'll try to express it as well as I can. What we're setting in motion, the seeds we're planting, will have ripple effects beyond even our lifetimes. So think of what we're consuming. Think of, you know, when I say consuming, I mean like the stuff we buy, how much goes into landfills. Think of the earth. And at the end of the day, it's not, yeah, we can individually do our bit for sure. But, there's companies and factories and there's greater pollution that's happening that's beyond us. So there's a lot that's in play, and it could be easy to be overwhelmed if we start to think about everything, right? So it's a matter of now again focusing our consciousness like on what's in front of us and doing what we can, and it starts with just really centering ourselves. And the thought just came in and flew out of my brain so quickly right now, which was important. I don't even know how many people. How are you guys doing? Am I talking to myself? No, there's people here, but everyone's very quiet. So, do you guys have any questions? Because when I get into a stream of consciousness, I can keep going sometimes. So I just need to. It's 45 minutes. I can talk for a while. I'll talk for another 15 minutes at least. But I would love if you guys had questions and had anything to ask me. Hi, Isabella. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Nadine. Oh, oh wow. Polls close in Canada at 9:30, letting go of the past. After Moon Uranus, I hope we let things crumble, have learned our lessons, and understand what matters going forward. Absolutely, Nadine. I mean, I'm not in Canada, but my brother now lives in Toronto. Oh, hi, Scorpio Sun. Yeah, we love you, Scorpios, for sure. But Nadine, this is big, right? Like what's happening everywhere in the world, like India, Pakistan, Middle East. I mean, just everywhere. And that's really what's happening is people are waking up. Like we don't have to suffer, you know, and we can make change where we can, and then trust that there's a greater divine force and divine plan in motion with this Venus Saturn conjunction. It's just a matter of us, as much as we can be awake and aware, we can act in alignment. And that's the part where I started to say, we're not really in control of life. The best we can do is, find center, and that's why meditation is so important. And I'm saying that when as I'm saying meditation is so important. To be very honest, I haven't been meditating in the past few weeks, and I need to get back to it. I mean, I wake up every morning and I do my mantras and I do my morning prayers, but I haven't been. I need to. Anyway, I'm not blaming myself. I guess I'm going to come back to my own advice, which is there's a divine force that's in play, and we're watching this divine play in motion. And at best we can witness it, and be as conscious as we can as possible, and then trust that there is a not natural process in motion. And sometimes we have to learn certain lessons. That said, with Venus past Saturn, we've already passed those lessons. Now it's a matter of embodying them in this physical vessel. So allowing that, understanding to percolate. And then also remembering the lessons we've learned so that we can create something new. Because what we are creating is something very new. It hasn't been created before, which means, we're going to have to experiment, which means we might make mistakes, but having faith that we will be guided, you know. Um, yeah, I guess that's, oh, so I'll add this, I'll add this little bit, which is Chiron is now in Aries, and Chiron is going to enter Taurus in 2027. And Chiron very much speaks of this process of spiritual awakening in terms of the alignment of the seven chakras in our body. And with this Neptune, ruler of the North Node, having left Pisces into Aries, where Chiron has been for all this while, the coming era of Neptune in Aries, I've said this in a previous video, over the past, since 2012, like astrology has become mainstream, manifestation has become mainstream. These things that are in mainstream consciousness now, people understand it, and there's a wider acceptance for that, for this, where people don't think it's so out there anymore. The next stage of our understanding is, we're really understanding how everything is one, which means we're going to understand more about the subtle energetic systems of the body. And which means with this Saturn, we're also going to have to remember how to have boundaries on a very basic, simple level, without being like, oh, everything is energy and everything is magical. No, Taurus is very real. This is physical stuff. So this is happening in the body. So yes, we've learned important lessons of boundaries even. And energetic boundaries will begin with that spiritual hygiene. So whatever your spiritual practice, whether it's sitting and praying or whether it's, you know, karma yoga, which is you offer up your work, the work you do to God, you offer up whatever you do. I mean, if you think of yoga, now I'm probably digressing a lot, and I should probably talk about this in another video. But Chiron is about to enter Taurus in 2027. And we're, as a race, as a globe, as a planet, we're reaching another evolutionary threshold. And I definitely will do another video about it. I'm writing a book, but that seems to be taking its own time. So maybe a video will be an introduction to that work. But it's going to be really important for us to now start to understand the subtler systems of our body. And this is coming back to everything that I've been saying from the beginning, which is we're more than our five senses and we're more than this physical energy. And until we realize that, we'll keep tripping up on something. And when we do realize that, then, when you realize you are divine, if the ego hasn't been destroyed or if this vessel hasn't been purified, then that ego can come out. I mean, then that, we all know what happens to people with absolute power and an ego. It corrupts. So it's very easy to point fingers and blame. And I'm speaking to the transits here with this Neptune and Aries. It's very easy for us, even in terms of politics, right? Like, let me come bring it back. Perfect example. Let's talk about politics for a second. I hate politics. I don't really follow politics, but obviously you can't live in this world and not know what's going on, right? But it's very easy for us to sit and blame the government. And sure, there's a lot that needs to be changed. And on that sense, I mean, Pluto's transit through Capricorn over the past, since 2008 till last year, that brought a slow crumbling and, of government, of us. And it's not crumbling of government, it exposed the corruption in government, right? That's what Pluto does, it exposes things. It exposes what's already decaying. So it exposed all of that. And now with Pluto moving through Aquarius, this is voting, Mars opposite Pluto, power of the people. So it's like, yes, the people have power, but it's now even the system, it's understanding how the system works. And then understanding, Pluto, okay, now we're talking about Pluto and Aquarius lessons, but that's a whole other thing that's happening where we're understanding the power of the collective consciousness as well, and how we're connected to each other, and how much of a herd mentality people can have, you know. And so coming back to blaming people, right? So this Neptune in Aries, if we start blaming our people, there's no end to the blame. There's no end to the blame. Aries is a sign of the self, Neptune in Aries, and now this new moon in Taurus. It's like, as far as you're concerned, this whole world, you are the center of your universe. And really, there is, everything is only one. And that Neptune in Aries is that omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent energy in all of us, right? So God is alive in each and every one of us. The divine is alive in each and every one of us. But we're not aware of it. We're not in that state of consciousness. And again, enlightenment, it's, they say after enlightenment, more laundry. Because it's not of, as long as you're on this physical plane, we're part of that play. And we have a role to play in this play. That's why we're here. So each and every one of us, and the whole would not be whole without the sum of its parts. So everything has a part to play. So even the so-called evil we see in the world is mirroring something to us, right? It's mirroring something to us in terms of how do we respond when faced with that. Do we then, they say choose your enemies wisely, because you'll become like them. So with that Neptune and Aries, we're all learning this. Boundaries are going to be so important, because it's almost that sense of, okay, you don't know where you begin and where the other ends. You don't know what is projection and what is, an illusion, and what's really true. It's a very subtle process that's underway, and this is very new energy. I mean, Venus is going to conjunct Neptune in the next few days, but this is very new. Neptune and Aries is very baby new energy. So it's like this baby flame that's slowly sparked within us all right now, with, especially with this Mars Pluto, like something is resurrected within us, and something is really budding and blossoming very gently within us right now. And it's up to us to tend to that, you know and nurture that and protect that. And so coming back to this thing about politics, it can feel very it can be very disempowering to look at what's happening in the world and then feel like we don't have much of power in what's going on. But it's a chance to bring it back to ourselves and work on. I mean, they say in spiritual teachings, the greatest service you can provide the world is your own self-realization. So if we can really just even work on ourselves, like, that's the best thing we can do for the whole world. And automatically, in the people we connect with and the work that we do, it'll pour out of our being automatically. So does that make sense? I know it makes sense in my head, but I don't know if I'm conveying that clearly enough. Um, yeah, please somebody say something. Okay, thank you, Isabella. So, yes, there is evil and wrong and not plenty in the world that's a mess that needs to be cleaned up. But even that is serving a purpose, and that, ultimately is helping you on your journey of self realization. And this is the part where maybe I should mention this, talk about this right now, which is I just started, and it's almost like we are with this new moon, we're creating our own little sandbox, right? And who gets to come play and with us, and what are the rules, and is everyone playing fair? And you know if the moon is exalted in Taurus, how are you being the divine mother for this world? I mean, you're not God, but that divine is alive within you. So, I mean, I try. I don't always do this because I'm human, but I try. Which is, what would what would God want me to do in this situation? And there's no right or wrong. There's no one there judging other than, your own self. And then you do your best, and you may not always get it right, but you learn something, and it's the intent that matters, right? And so this comes back to this judgment, is like when we're looking at politicians, or we're looking at the world, or anything else, you know we know what's right and wrong, and that's why it upsets us to see when there's, injustice in the world. But then now Jupiter in Gemini is saying, go beyond that duality and look with a greater vision. Look through the eyes of God. Jupiter represents God. Look through the eyes of God. Why is there this contrast? What is it teaching me? How can I evolve through this? How can I use this to evolve and make do what I can to make the world a better place? And so for that, also pay attention to what you're consuming in the news and in the media, and limit yourself. I don't own a TV, and I don't watch the news. I get the news from my brother, who is very well read, and then I figure you can't go anywhere without really, if something's important enough, I'll find out, and then I'll read up about it. So it's not that I'm uninformed, but I do very much limit what I watch. And Pisces represents the movies. The North Node, another thing about manifestation, I'll say, is, we're materializing this vision. It's like when you're manifesting, like there's the law of attraction, there's the law of assumption. And really, that's the law of assumption. I mean, God is always saying, like in Sanskrit, they say tathastu, which is so be it. So whatever we wish for, God is always saying, so be it, so be it, so be it. So that's the key with manifestation, right? Even our fears and the things that we don't want, if we feed our energy there, the universe doesn't know the difference between, does she want it or does she not want it? If she didn't want it, why is she? I mean, if you're paying attention to it, the universe assumes that we want it. So we just keep creating more and more of the same cycles. We're getting a chance to really break our cycles, and break cycles and patterns and energy that's been stuck in place for a long time. Taurus again is physical energy. So there could be, people, I know friends who are buying and selling houses, you know, marriage, real life changes, right? Relationships, real life changes, which will alter the landscape of our lives. But trust a process of growth, and nurture what is precious and valuable to you. And you don't have to worry about cutting anyone off, or, the things that you don't pay attention to will die a natural death. And so, in fact, that's also something to remember, right? So, if something is important to you, then how do you treat it? Do you treat it with love and care? Or how do you take care of the things that you value? Taurus comes back to values. How do you care for the relationships you value? And coming back to nature, nature just gives. Nature doesn't even speak. Nature teaches in silence. So really, with Taurus, Uranus conjunct Taurus, this sixth sense, communication doesn't even have to be verbal. That's Gemini, which comes after Taurus. We can perfectly have psychic, telepathic, and communication with others without having to say a word. I mean, I've always known I've been telepathic, and now with Uranus conjunct my sun, there's no doubt about it, right? I see it. So it's part of the work that I do as well, and my own spiritual practice as well. But still, Taurus energy, like that, Taurus has gut instincts that are really perceptive. So trust your instincts now. Allow them to guide you. Trust your heart. Let it guide you. But at the same time, just be very real with yourself about what you're leaving behind, what you're clearing out, and the foundations that you're building on. Then, even if something is slow, it's not about quick success. It's about slowly nurturing something that's valuable and precious to you. It's not about the fruit. The fruit will come automatically, but it'll come because you've been giving something love, care, and attention. Or then you can go GMO route, and I'm using a metaphor, but where you try to produce something fast, unnaturally, and then it ultimately becomes something poisonous to you. There's a reason things take their time. So trust a natural process. People are not things that we can control or possess. If anything, Uranus is asking for, when it comes to our relationships, is asking for freedom, detachment, acceptance, allowing, loving people as they are. That doesn't mean, but that doesn't mean you don't value yourself and you don't have boundaries. Sometimes life circumstances, we just have to love people from a distance. I mean, I live in New York. My family is in India. My brother is in Toronto. So I love them with all my heart. They're everything to me, right? But for whatever reason, fate has me over here. And believe me, I have myself questioning, I question that myself all the time. But I know that life has a certain path, and I have a certain path, and so here I am. But distance doesn't make me love them any less. If anything, Taurus teaches us, it's like it teaches us to go beyond the physical, where we're not going to take our money to the grave. We're not going to take any of our valuables and possessions to the grave. The only thing that's eternal and that'll last is the love we've shared with people, and that's the only thing that lives on. So when it comes to Taurus, it's like love grows when we give love, not when we expect love. And when we expect love, what we're expecting, that's when that Uranus energy, expectations are the root of disappointment, because nothing ever turns out exactly the way we have it planned. you know if And very often it turns out better than we had planned. But we've got to allow that to happen, and to realize that, okay, we're here on this planet, and we're God wants us to be here and have fun and be creative and enjoy our lives and enjoy all the sensual material pleasures. Like, I've been so serious talking about just spirituality and all of this stuff, but Taurus loves is such a sensual sign. It loves good food, good wine, good music, indulging all the senses. So that's really one of the, and being out in nature, just certainly this energy is pushing us out of our comfort zone. But we could have experiences that we've dreamed of but never imagined possible. It's just about keeping our hearts open and keeping our minds open and being creative with this energy. And, if anyone is, because we've been through some really rough, gnarly aspects recently. So if anyone's still feeling a little rattled, or a little sore from what has happened, then give yourself, be compassionate with yourself. Give yourself the time and space to heal and find your new normal. And trust that anything that's fallen away is stuff you've outgrown. It's like the container, a plant. If you love something, like let's say you love a flower, I'm mixing a couple of things, but if you love a flower, you're not going to pluck it from the garden, you're going to water the garden so it can grow. That's the difference between love and possession, right? So when it comes to people, even if you love someone, then you can love them, and that's like water, right, for their spirit and soul. You can hug them, you can show your love in ways, but then you give them the freedom to be themselves and acceptance. And then also, and this is so true when especially in this climate, when politics is dividing so many people, and I say that because I see it in my clients as well, you know where families and people are having a hard time reconciling each other's views with each other. And now with this Jupiter and Gemini, and it's really asking us to close the gap. Like, we're all human beings, and so we can agree to disagree. We can all agree to disagree. And nobody's, why does it matter so much that somebody else believes something else? Let them believe whatever they want to believe. In fact, I would say, we're being asked to let go of our own beliefs. Then we can really wake up to see the reality. And then we can really find any power to change reality. Because beliefs are in the head. And this Taurus energy is real. It's like beliefs are the causes of war and death. So, and especially with Jupiter here, it's like if we haven't closed this gap within ourselves of whatever feels like a divide, and if we don't get grounded in this reality now, then by the time Uranus enters, you know, Gemini, we're going to feel more torn apart, as opposed to if we're centered and grounded and we've really laid this foundation with this Uranus and Taurus, and this Taurus new moon now, and let our roots go deep, then that can feel liberating. Then Uranus can feel like genius, especially Uranus in Gemini is like, it can be absolutely genius energy in terms of ideas and creativity. And so it is with even Taurus energy. So, I mean, Bob Dylan has, oh, I should probably do another chart, but this is all lighting up his chart right now. I love Bob Dylan. But yeah, I think I'll stop here for now. But I will say, coming back to this new moon in Taurus, it's very fertile, very sensual. Relationships are deepening, and we may be having unconventional, it's a new order that's forming in our life. So we're doing things that have never been done before, but at the same time, there needs to be a foundation. And it's like we're realigning with our soul vision and soul mission, and planting seeds for that in the coming days as we move ahead, and trusting that natural process, that even the stuff that we see around us that we don't necessarily agree with, how do we navigate that without becoming that, you know okay, I think I'm going to pause here, unless does anyone have any questions. uh, and maybe I don't know, I don't, what else can I say? Practical steps, Taurus. Okay, declutter space, I already said that. Here's what I would say: whatever vision you have, right? Let's talk in terms of manifestation. Okay, I'll end on this note. I'll say this last: the seeds you're planting now, whatever vision you have, take time to clarify your vision. And if you can take even a few practical steps following this new moon and in this new energy, one thing will lead to the next. It will move ahead. And actually, I would also advise, I mean, anyone who's listening, Cosmic Diaries Astrology, follow me on Instagram. But I've posted the Sabian symbol for this new moon. So read that. That'll be insightful as well. Because actually, there's no stopping me, right? I'm just going to do this. Or maybe I'll do this another time. Read the Sabian symbol for this new moon. It will be insightful. And manifestation, it starts with having a clear vision. You don't have to worry about how it's going to come about. You just have a clear vision of it and then realize what you're really going for, because material energy, Taurus energy, ultimately, you know, everything that's born will die, is transient. So realize what you really want is to feel happy and to feel at peace, which is what any of us really want. So if we can find that level of contentment with this Taurus new moon within ourselves, then the rest can just feel like a blossoming, a continuous blossoming. It's like the divine mother or the universe already knows what you need better than you. That's the spot with this north node. And me, I probably digress, but I'm coming back to the point where the universe is always saying, so be it. But we can have all these outrageous wishes, but we have only a finite amount of life span here on this planet in this physical body. So if I don't complete all my wishes in this, I mean, if all my desires don't manifest, like let's say, for example, I am an astrologer today and I'm almost, I'm 48. Let's say today suddenly I decided I wanted to be a rocket scientist, which I don't. But let's say I decided I wanted to do that. Yeah, maybe I could still do it in this lifetime, but maybe I'd have to come back in another lifetime to do it. And I personally don't really want to come back in another lifetime to be a rocket scientist. So, just in case the universe is listening, I hope you got that clear. You know, this North Node is the cause of our rebirth. And half the time we're wishing for things we don't even know what's good for us. So, the more we can surrender that to the divine and trust that the divine knows what's good for us. It's us now tuning into that inner soul mission and then trusting a process moving ahead. Okay, maybe I'm going to start repeating myself right now, so I'll stop. But yeah, we've reached quite a significant turning point. This is dislodging a lot of energy. Expect this to be an unforgettable Taurus season. By the end of this Taurus season, where we could all be rubbing our eyes in disbelief at some of the things that have, taken place. But it's just a matter of, there's nothing to be afraid of. It's trusting that the universe has your best interests at heart, and it's allowing for change and not clinging to what's changing, because it's trusting that you're moving into a new phase of your growth, and what's falling away is, they're like old crutches that you don't need anymore, and you're ready for this new chapter. So right now, nurture what's budding and blossoming and slowly taking seed, and then by the full moon we'll be ready to take stock and see what's come off it, the first few steps even. So anyway, now I guess I'm kind of blanking out. I've gone on for quite a while, so I'm going to stop here for now, unless anybody has questions. So I'm going to wait for a minute, because this was pure stream of consciousness. Nadine, that is the work. Yes, it can be so hard to believe. It makes sense. Thanks, Brianne. Body Keeps Score. Thanks, by Bessel van der Kolk. Thank you, Nadine. Yes, that's the one I was talking about. So that might help for anyone who hasn't heard of the book, to read The Body Keeps Score. Um, but hi, love to all my Scorpios in the house and not in the house at the moment, and love to everybody. But thanks, guys, for being here. I hope are you guys enjoying these live videos? I think it's much easier for me to do than um, recording them. So I think I'm gonna keep going with this for now. But I'm sending everyone all my love. The seeds you have right now are like seeds from Jack and the Beanstalk. There could be sudden growth spurts. So plant your seeds wisely. And I guess I will end on this note to say that, collective journey, sorry, inner journey collective, I've been working on the structure, which is basically the subscription service that I'm going to start offering. And yeah, I might as well take a minute to introduce it here, where we're going to meet once a month on Zoom, and we're going to talk all about the sign. And I'm going to share tips, remedies that I have in working with the energy, aside from what you will probably find in most astrology books. This is based on my personal experience and all, my studies otherwise, um, and everything that I've learned from my all my spiritual teachers. And then I'll have a question and answer session at the end where I'll look at your individual charts. So you can come in with your individual charts. And the whole idea is for you to have access to not just the astrology, but me, the astrologer, so that you can ask me questions, because these days even Chat GPT can offer you astrology. I've tried it. It's not that it's not accurate, it's accurate, but it lacks the human understanding, right? Empathy. So this is also Uranus and Taurus, where yeah, the future is here and technology is here, but how are we using technology? And in all of that, are we losing the human connection? And how important the human connection is, because we all know how isolated everyone has become. How the internet has served to connect us as much as it has served to isolate us and disconnect us, and to create false information, and to create these divides between people that we didn't have before, or we did but on a much smaller scale. Sorry, I'm going to start off all over again, my brain. But so the whole point of doing inner journey collective is so that you guys can talk to me individually, personally, and that way you don't have to pay for a full session, but you can check in once in a month and talk to me, and you have access to a real astrologer that you connect with and you trust. And that's really what's going to happen, because there's all these astrologers out there now, and I'm not judging anyone, but it's going to be important for people to do their research about who they're going to and who they're listening to. And an astrologer is limited by their understanding of astrology. And I know, if anyone says they know it all, whether astrology or anything else, they'd be, it's not true unless you're enlightened. And even then, that's a whole different world, right? Of state of consciousness. But you can't really know it all. But why? Okay, now this is a whole other tangent. I think I should just stop. Point is, you're going to have access to me. I'm going to answer all your questions, whatever you have, as best as I can. And I can read your charts live. And then if you need more guidance, I would love to, of course, work with you one on one. I mean, you can always contact me one on one for a reading, but I'm hoping that the Inner Journey Collective will be something that'll really be a helpful tool and build community and connection. And, we can learn from each other. And when you see the astrology play out in other people's lives, it really gives us a sense of understanding that there's order in the chaos. And we're not just hurtling on this ball of spinning rock with no one to care for us. There's a divine plan in motion. So, okay, now my voice is closing up. I gotta stop. But I'm so grateful, appreciative of everyone who is here listening with me. Literally, my voice is closing up. And Taurus throat chakra. Stop for now. Thank you so much for being here. Be back with you soon. Bye. Happy new moon.